What happens when a casino executive, a man with everything to lose, breaks the law? Our story begins with an ambitious young man. Born into a modest family, his dreams were anything but ordinary. He dreamt of bright lights, high stakes, and a glittering empire built on chips and cards. His name would soon be known in the high-rolling circles of Las Vegas, a symbol of success, a beacon of charisma, and a testament to sheer business acumen. His entry into the casino industry was anything but a gamble. It was calculated, strategic, and fueled by an insatiable thirst for success. He started at the bottom, learning the ropes, understanding the dynamics, and slowly but surely climbing the corporate ladder. Each rung brought him closer to his dream, each step illuminated by the neon lights of the Strip. His rise to the top was swift and remarkable. He had an uncanny knack for understanding the pulse of the industry, a knack that didn't go unnoticed. He was soon heading one of the biggest casinos on the Strip. His name was synonymous with success, his charisma magnetic, and his strategies pioneering. He had it all: respect, influence, and power. He was the king of the Strip, ruling his empire with a sharp mind and a charismatic smile. But beneath this dazzling veneer of success, there was a darker side, a side that thrived in the shadows, away from the prying eyes of the public and the flashing lights of the Strip. This was a side of him that was as thrilling as it was dangerous, as enticing as it was illegal. But behind this glittering facade of success, a storm was brewing. And this storm would soon engulf his empire, his reputation, and his life, leaving behind a tale that would shock the world. With great power comes great temptation, and our casino executive was no exception. Picture, if you will, a life of opulence and grandeur, where the mundane worries of everyday life are but a distant memory. This was the world our casino executive found himself in. He lived a life that most of us can only dream of, a life filled with luxury, excess, and high-stakes gambling. Each day was a whirlwind of glitz and glamour, with the twinkling lights of Las Vegas serving as his playground. Imagine walking into any high-end store and buying whatever you want without even glancing at the price tag. Picture the thrill of putting $1 million on the line in a single game of poker. These were the indulgences that our casino executive was accustomed to. His days were filled with the finest wines, the most sumptuous meals, and parties that would last until the sun came up. The allure of the high-roller lifestyle was intoxicating, a heady mix of power, wealth, and decadence. But it wasn't just the material wealth that drew him in. It was the power, the thrill of being able to bend the world to his will. He played a high-stakes game, not just at the poker table, but in the boardroom as well. He wielded his influence like a weapon, drawing others into his web of corruption and greed. But as we all know, nothing in this world is free. Every choice, every indulgence came with its own cost. Our casino executive was playing a dangerous game, and as the stakes got higher, so did the risks. His lifestyle was a facade, a mask that hid the darker reality beneath. Beneath the glamour and the glitz was a world of corruption, where power was bought and sold, and where the line between right and wrong was blurred. However, this high-roller lifestyle came with a hefty price. The price of integrity, the price of honesty, and ultimately, the price of freedom. As the saying goes, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And for our casino executive, the fall was just around the corner. In the world of casinos, the house always wins. But what if the house is playing a rigged game? In the glitzy and glamorous world of Las Vegas, there's no shortage of big spenders. But the former casino executive we're discussing today wasn't just rolling the dice on the casino floor. He was playing a much more dangerous game, a game of deception, manipulation, and ultimately, betrayal. His weapon of choice? Money laundering and fraud. Now, money laundering might sound like something out of a Hollywood movie, but it's all too real. It involves making illegally gained proceeds appear legal, a shell game of sorts. And our executive, he was a master at it. He used the casino as a front, exploiting its operations to launder money. But it didn't end there. He also dabbled in fraud, another serious offense. He manipulated the system, bending it to his will. He created a complex web of deceit, making it difficult for anyone to trace his activities. He wasn't just playing the system, he was rigging it. He was exploiting loopholes, making shady deals, and using his position to cover it all up. It was a high-stakes game, and he was betting everything on it. But in this world, you can't keep the truth buried forever. In the end, the house of cards he built began to crumble. His actions, which once seemed invincible, started to catch up to him. And it became clear that this game he was playing, it was a losing one. But as we all know, what goes up must come down. The gravity of his actions began to weigh heavily on him. He was about to face the consequences of his reckless gamble. The high roller was about to go bust. When the law finally caught up with our casino executive, it wasn't by chance. The wheels of justice may grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. And in this case, the grind began when a few sharp-eyed investigators started to notice inconsistencies in the casino's financial records. The first red flag was the sudden and unexplained influx of cash into the casino's coffers. This wasn't the usual ebb and flow of the gambling industry. Instead, it was a flood of cash, far above the casino's typical earnings. Then there were the suspicious transactions. Large sums of money were moving in and out of the casino at an alarming rate, and not always in the form of gambling winnings or losses. The executive was using the casino like his own personal bank, a clear violation of federal anti-money laundering rules. The investigators didn't stop at the financial records. They dug deeper, uncovering a web of illicit activities that stretched far beyond the glitzy facade of the casino. There were bribes, kickbacks, and even a connection to a college admissions scandal. Every new piece of evidence painted a picture of a man who believed he was above the law. But it was the executive's own arrogance that ultimately sealed his fate. He left a trail of digital breadcrumbs that led investigators straight to his doorstep. Emails, text messages, and even social media posts provided a damning paper trail of his illegal activities. As the investigators pieced together the puzzle, the scale of the executive's scheme became clear. This wasn't just a case of bending the rules. It was a calculated and flagrant disregard for the law, driven by greed and a sense of invincibility. With the evidence stacked against him, the executive's empire began to crumble. The walls were closing in, and the high-roller lifestyle he had become accustomed to was about to come crashing down. The question was no longer if he would be caught, but when. When the truth was revealed, the fall was swift and severe. The once untouchable casino executive was now in the grip of the law. Arrested on charges of violating federal anti-money laundering rules, his world began to crumble around him. The courtroom was abuzz as he stood trial, his high-roller lifestyle now a stark contrast to the defendant's stand he occupied. His conviction sent shockwaves through the casino industry. The executive who once held the reins of a Las Vegas Strip casino was now a symbol of corruption, greed, and deception. His colleagues watched in disbelief as the man they once admired and respected was now a pariah. The industry was left reeling, questioning how such a violation could have occurred under their very noses. His personal life, too, was in shambles. Friends and family were left to grapple with the reality of his actions. The man who was once a pillar of his community, admired for his success and wealth, was now viewed with disdain and disappointment. His reputation was tarnished, his relationships strained, and his legacy forever marred by his deeds. As he awaited his sentence, the executive was left to reflect on his actions. The glitz and glamour of the casino life, the thrill of the high-stakes games, all of it now a distant memory. He was no longer the king of the casino strip, but a man facing the grim reality of federal prison time. And when the gavel fell, it was with a finality that echoed through the courtroom. The executive was sentenced, marking the end of his reign and the beginning of his retribution. His fall from grace was a stark reminder of the price of greed and deception. In the end, the executive paid a high price for his greed and deception. His downfall serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even in the glittering world of casinos, the house always wins. The fallout from the executive's crime was far-reaching and devastating. As the dust settled, the ripple effects of his actions became glaringly clear. The legal repercussions were swift and severe. The once high-flying casino executive was now facing a judge in Los Angeles and possible federal prison time. His violation of federal anti-money laundering rules was a serious offense that carried hefty penalties. Financially, the consequences were equally grim. The executive's actions had wreaked havoc on the casino's finances. Trust had been broken, and rebuilding it would take time and considerable resources. The casino industry as a whole was left to grapple with the aftermath, taking a hard look at their own procedures and safeguards to prevent such a scandal from happening again. But perhaps the most devastating impact was on the victims of his actions. Employees who had trusted and respected their leader were left disillusioned and betrayed. They had to grapple with the reality that their boss, someone they had looked up to, was responsible for such a major breach of trust. The executive's actions had not only harmed them personally, but it also tarnished the reputation of the industry they were a part of. Beyond the immediate circle of his professional life, the executive's family and friends were caught in the aftershock of his downfall. The personal consequences of his actions were far-reaching, affecting those who had known him closely and those who had admired him from a distance. In the end, the executive's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and greed. His rise and fall from grace is a cautionary tale that resonates far beyond the glitzy world of Las Vegas casinos. It's a tale of how the pursuit of wealth and power, when taken to extremes, can lead to devastating consequences. In the wake of such a scandal, we are left to ponder, what can we learn from this? The story of our fallen casino executive certainly provides a bevy of lessons to reflect upon. Chief among these is the timeless lesson of integrity. It's easy to be lured by the glitz and glamour of the high-roller lifestyle, but when the chips are down, it's character that remains. The executive's story starkly illustrates that no amount of wealth can buy integrity, and without it, even an empire of riches can crumble like a house of cards. Then we come to the cautionary tale of greed. It's a powerful motivator, but as we've seen, it can also be a destructive force. The executive's desire for more money, more power, more prestige ultimately led to his downfall. Greed, it seems, has a way of blinding us to the consequences of our actions. Finally, we see the inevitability of justice. It may take time, but as this tale has shown, justice has a way of catching up with us. The executive thought he could outsmart the system, but he was wrong. Despite his best efforts to hide his transgressions, he was exposed, and he faced the consequences of his actions. This story is a stark reminder that no one is above the law. No matter how high one might climb or how much one might amass, the rules still apply. And when those rules are broken, there are consequences to be faced. So, let's take these lessons to heart. Let's strive for integrity in all we do. Let's keep our ambitions in check and avoid the trap of greed. And let's remember that justice, though sometimes slow, is relentless in its pursuit. As the saying goes, crime doesn't pay, and in the case of our casino executive, the house always wins.